right, so in today's math lesson, our math goal is to multiply fractions and simplify. So write down on your math notebook everything you already know about multiplying fractions and about simplifying, then come back to me. All right, let's look at this one as an example. We have 2/3 times 15, and we're going to solve it in the simplest terms. So the way we've been doing it so far, we've been doing 2/3 times 15 over 1, and we've been writing a 1 underneath our whole number, right? And it's 2 times 15 is 30, 3 times 1 is 3, and then 30 divided by 3 is 10. So that's the way we've been doing these so far. But let's take a look at a couple of different ways that we can approach this. Okay, one way to approach this, and by the way, write this example down. One way to approach this is to make a unit fraction. So 2/3, right? If I make 2/3 a unit fraction, it's going to become 1/3. So then I'm going to multiply 1/3 times 15. That's the normal way. 1 times 15 is 15. 3 times 1 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now I would need to multiply my product by 2 because it was 2/3, not 1/3. So 2 times 5 is 10. So this is another way to do this. You can make it into a unit fraction and then multiply by whatever number you had in your numerator to begin with. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, make sure you write this example down. And if you need to, replay this a couple of times because this is the preferred method. Notice I have the red here. This is it. This is the biggie. Okay, so the simplified method. Do the numerators have a common factor with the denominators? If yes, you divide, then multiply. So in our example here, 2/3 times 15, I rewrote it to 2/3 times 15 over 1. Now remember that the fraction bar means division. All I simply did is I extended the fraction bar. And now I have multiplication over multiplication, right? And to remember in multiplication, you can switch the factors and it doesn't matter. So in essence, what I'm doing here is I can switch the 3 and the 1 around. So I can put the 1 here and the 3 here, and it doesn't matter. Remember, because the commutative property of multiplication and addition tells me I can switch the addends or the factors and it doesn't make a difference. So in essence, what I did is like switching these around. So now I have 15 over 3, right? And I know that 15 over 3, I know 3 goes into 15 5 times, 3 goes into 3 1 time. So it's basically what I did, but without switching the numbers around. You don't have to switch the numbers around, but in essence, that's what you're doing, and that's why you can simplify. Now, it has to be numerator to denominator or denominator to numerator. It cannot be denominator to denominator, and it cannot be numerator to numerator, because remember, whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So if I divide this by 3, I got to divide one of the bottom numbers by 3. So whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. So that's key. That's why this works. So then I just multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 3. Oh, actually 1 times 1, not 3, right? Because I got rid of the 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 10 divided by 1 is 10. So you've got to divide first the numerator and the denominator by the same factor, and then you multiply. This is the preferred method because it'll save you tons of time, and you're going to see in a couple more examples. So all the simplification methods that we talked about, the three, the regular way, the unit fraction, or the simplify first, they're all going to give you the same answer. We saw that all of them gave us the same answer, but doing the simplified method is going to be faster, and it's going to be easier to do because it's going to give you smaller numbers to multiply. and you're going to just see in just a second. Okay, so let's do this one together. Write it down in your math notebook, 3/10 times 5/12, and we're going to solve it in a couple of different ways in simplest form. Okay, if we do it the multiply first method, the way we've been doing it, right? 3/10 times 5/12, then it's just simply 3 times 5, which is 15, 10 times 12, which is 120. Now I need to simplify 15 in simplest terms, 15 over 120. I need to simplify that in simplest terms. I need to find out what factor they all have in common. So then I can think, okay, what can I divide 15 and 120 by? Can I divide both of them by 5? Yes. Can I divide both by 10? No. Can I divide it by 15? Well, it looks like I can, but it's going to take us a while to do that. So let me show you a different way that you're going to arrive at the 1/8 way faster, because this is not in simplest form. Okay, if I were to do the simplify method, right? So 3/5 times 5/12. I just rewrote it. Remember, I just extended my fraction bar. And, oh, I forgot to put multiplication sign there, so I'll just put an X. I just extended the fraction bar. Now, I can see, if I look at my numbers, I can see 5 and 10 both share a common factor, right? The common factor that they share is 5. So I could rewrite these. I could move the 10 and the 12, but you don't need to, okay, to save you time. But in essence, that's what I'm doing. I'm just switching these two numbers around. It's like moving them into the different spot, okay? So then I can see that 5 and 10 have something in common. They have the 5 in common. I can divide 5 by 5 and it gives me 1, and I can divide 10 by 5 and that gives me 2. So remember, whatever I do at the top, I gotta do to the bottom. So then I'm gonna look at 3 and 12. Yes, they both share 3 as a common factor, right? So I can divide 3 by 3 and that gives me 1. So if I divide this by 3, I gotta divide something in the bottom by 3. The number I can divide in the bottom by 3 is my 12. So 3 goes into 12 4 times. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. See how much simpler it is? Because now you have smaller ones, and now I end up with a unit fraction. So I know that's in simplest form. I can't get any simpler than a unit fraction. So this method is way, way faster. Okay, you do not have to rewrite the equation when you're doing the simplify shortcut method. You do not need to rewrite the equation like I did on the previous ones. You simplify the original problem first, then multiply. So just like we did before, if you wanted to, you could extend your line here and you don't have to rewrite it. You could extend it and it's the same thing. This saves you a step of rewriting the product as a single fraction with the products in the numerator and the denominator. So it just saves you a step of having to rewrite, but it's the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking at the smaller number and I'm saying, does 3 go into 10? No. Does 3 go into 12? Yes. So I can simplify that. I can even put an arrow, so I'm simplifying that. Then I can say 5. This is a smaller number. Does this 5 go into 10? Yes. So I can simplify those. All right. So let's try some in just a second. So let's think about the examples we've been through. So why is it easier to simplify first than to solve? Think about it. Then come back to me. So it's easier to simplify first because it makes the number smaller and easier to multiply. Then you don't have to try to find a common factor, right? When we had, was it 15 and 120, I believe? Then you don't have to worry about trying to find a common factor for both of them. All right, so let's look at this example. So let's try one. We have 3/8 times 2/15. Solve using the simplify method, the shortcut method if you want. Try that one. If you still aren't sure, stay with me and then I will go through it if not. Okay, so let's look at it. So 3/8, I'm going to look at the 3. Does 3 go into 8? No. Does 3 go into 15? Yes. 3 goes into 15 5 times, right? So I'm matching up the 3 to the 15. 3 goes into 15 5 times, and I can divide 3 by 3 is 1. Whatever I do to the top, I got to do to the one of the bottom numbers. It doesn't matter which number, but it's the top to the bottom. So then I look at the 2. Does 2 go into 5? No. Does 2 go into 8? Yes. How many times? 4 times. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So then I get 1 times 1 is 1. And then 4 times 5 is 20. So way faster than if I were to do 3 times 2, that would have given me 6, right? It's also equal to 6 over. Now I'd have to multiply 15 times 8. And then if I multiply 15 times 8, I'm going to get 8 times 5 is 40, carry my 4. 8 times 1 is 8 plus my 4 is 12 is 120. So now I need to simplify 6 and 120. I would need to simplify that now. And I can see that 6 goes into 12. So 6 divided by 6, I can divide both by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then 6 into 120 would have given me my 20. But way easier to simplify first than having to do that math. All right, so that's why we want to simplify first. Okay, so try this one. 10 over 21 times 14 25ths. Solve this using the shortcut method, the simplifying method first, then come back to me. Okay, you should have gotten 4/15. So does 10 go into 21? No, but 10 and 25, do they have a factor in common? What's the greatest common factor in common? 10 does not go into 25, but I can divide both of them by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 25 divided by 5 is 5. Same thing with 14 and 21. 14 does not go into 21, but do they have something in common that they share? Yes, they share a 7. So I can divide 14 by 7, which gives me 2. 21 divided by 7 gives me 3. So now I just multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 5 is 15. 4/15. Can I simplify any further? No, right? Because I can divide 4 by 2, but I can't divide 15 by 2. I cannot divide 4 by 3, but I can divide 15 by 3, so that's not going to help. I can divide 4 by 4, but 4 doesn't go into 15, so that's my simplest form. Okay, try this one. 2/16 times 4/21. Solve using the shortcut method and then come back to me. All right, so a couple of different ways to approach this one. So one way to approach it is to say, does 2 go into 16? Yes, but I didn't do it that way. Does 2 go into 21? No. Does 4 go into 21? No. Does 4 go into 16? Yes. How many times? 4 times, right? So I divided both of these by 4 and that gave me a 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. And then I did 4 times 21, which gave me the 84. But this is not in simplest form yet, okay? But because now, does 2 go into 2? Yes. Does 2 go into 84? Yes. So I would have to divide both top and bottom by 2. That would give me 1 over 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 goes into 4 2 times, 1 over 42. Okay. Now, another way I could have done this one, I could have did 2 in the 16th. So let me rewrite it. 2/16 times 4 over 21. So what I could have done, 2 goes into 16, right? So I could have done that. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 16 divided by 2 is 8. I could have done it that way. And now look, I can simplify even more because now 4 goes into 8. So now I could simplify it even further. So some of you might have done it that way. So I can divide 4 by 4 is 1. right? And 8 divided by 4 is 2. And that's going to give me 1 times 1 is 1. And then 21 times 2 gives me my 42. So two different ways of solving this one. And this one took two simplifies, right? Where I was able to simplify that twice. And notice this wasn't my simplest form. So you'll have to play with it and see when you think you're done, you'll have to say, can 2 go into 84? Can I divide both by 2? Or you'll have to see, can I divide both numbers by 2, by 3, whatever it may be. So you'll have to play with it and try to see if you can get the simplest form. Okay, try this one. 5/8 times 32 over 45. Solve using the shortcut method and then come back to me. Okay, so for this one, the first thing I tried, I said, does 5 go into 8? No. But does 5 go into 45? Yes. So I can divide this one by 5. It gives me 1. I can divide 45 by 5, and it gives me 9. Then I'm going to say, now notice this is a little bit different, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever one can be divided, either the numerator or the denominator, it doesn't matter. The smaller number does not need to be at the top. Notice that the smaller number here is at the bottom. Does 8 go into 32? Yes, I can divide both by 8. So remember, it doesn't matter. It's just whatever you do to the bottom or the top, you got to do this. So if I do something to the top, I got to do it to the bottom. If I do it to the bottom, I got to do it to the top. It doesn't matter. So I can divide both by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 32 divided by 8 is 4. And now 1 times 4 is 4. And 1 times 9 is 9. 4 nines. And I can't simplify any further. Okay. All right. So what did you learn today? Write it down in your math notebook. Proof of learning by solving a problem. So write down two fractions that are multiplied together. See if you can simplify them. And then write a reflection or a question you may have.